Finance Committee on Monday, May 24th. The first item on the agenda would be the minutes from the last meeting, which were sent around. Do we have any questions, corrections, deletions, additions to them? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Russ, a second? That was George? Yep, I heard you, George. Thanks. Okay, any further discussion? Right, I gotta go do the roll call. I was gonna say all in favor. Roy?
I was not, I was sworn in May 4th, so I don't think I can vote on that.
Oh, on this one here, you were there.
I was.
May 12th.
This is the May 12th meeting. You were there and you voted. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Steve?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter?
I think I missed that meeting, right, Jerry?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so
Abstain.
I'll abstain.
Okay. George?
Yes.
Mary?
Aye.
Russ?
Aye.
And Jerry's an aye, so that's, it's 6-0-1. Okay. The next item on the business on the agenda, and I'll turn it over to either Jackie or Rich, whomever wants to have it, is our transfers from the reserve fund, which require Finance Committee approval.
Yes, Jerry, we're drilling down on the end of the year, looking at our accounts, making sure we don't have any problems, and by and large, we're in pretty good shape. What's in front of you was mostly anticipated, and I would submit that they represent extraordinary or unforeseen events, or certainly events for which we haven't budgeted for. And so I'll run through those relatively quickly, and then if you have any questions, I'll happy to take the questions. But finance salaries largely is providing some additional money for the retirement of Karen Erdos. Has some buyback for vacation and perhaps sick that will need to be provided for and funded. And then there's just a smaller amount that is just a shortfall, but about 3,500 or so is what we want to set aside for the retirement buyouts. MIS salaries is what is the largest item. That has a lot to do with additional time for our IT director. Typically is part-time, 19 hours per week. And he and I are working on a work plan for this upcoming fiscal year to make sure that we stay within those parameters. But in this past year, with COVID and additional work responsibilities and remote, and setting up laptops and remote work and replacing switches that need to be replaced to accommodate all that remote work, quite a bit of extra time was put in for that effort. And so this covers that. DPW salaries has to do with the retirement of Marty back in the beginning of the fiscal year, had a substantial, again, a retirement, vacation, sick leave buyback. We thought that the differential in the savings from his replacement would cover that. It hadn't. So it had with just a straight replacement, but the person that we had to replace his replacement came in a little bit higher than we had anticipated. And so, no real budgetary problem other than that $35,000 buyout for Marty Mickle back at the beginning of the fiscal year. And so we end up being about $6,800 short with the two replacements that came in behind him. Snow and ice is a typical deficit. We're allowed to overspend snow and ice, and we did because of the number of storms. No major storms, but even minor events require a call out and have overtime and have contractors come out and have materials costs. We do budget for snow and ice, but is typical in most communities. We don't provide for unknowns unless we need to. So not a lot of towns crank out their snow and ice budget when they have other priorities and needs that they want to fund, especially since we're able to deficit spend it. That being said, to the extent we have a deficit, I do like to take care of them within the fiscal year they occur and not carry them over. So the preference is to fund it from the reserve fund and just get it taken care of. And then finally, tax title. In a typical year, we have between 15 and 20 tax title cases that we need some support with our tax title attorney. And that attorney does things such as the ad placement, the verification of and registration of the tax title, and the filing with the Registry of Deeds. This year we had between 30 and 35, closer to 35, I think it was 34 tax titles, so almost double a normal year. We have collected on the vast majority of them, so no large outstanding tax, but we did have to do the work through the collection practices to do the tax, to file the lien and get the tax title and get the lien perfected. So hopefully that is a little higher than what we need. Right now the need is about $7,000, but we do have within the next week, have another round of tax lien filings that we need to process. And so we padded that just a few bucks to cover that work. Hopefully we don't need all that, but in any event, that's the request, the 10,000. And then finally, to the extent that that wasn't needed, for example, the snow and ice is the exact deficit, and we're not going to incur any more snow and ice costs, obviously, with this beautiful weather. But to the extent the tax title is unspent, the unspent money will go back to the general fund, just as if it were sitting in the reserve fund. So there's no change in how that might be utilized by keeping it on hand or funding the shortfall.
Okay, thanks. Is that one thing, just for your benefit, Roy, since the first time looking at it, there is in the budget a reserve fund which is requires finance committee is the only one that can pull the money out if the money isn't used in that year for some emergency or unforeseen purposes. It goes into the general fund. I think this year in fiscal 21, was it 90,000 was in the budget? Rich, am I correct?
I think it's 80,000.
It's 80,000. So we're spending a little over 60, and so therefore but the rest will then go into the free cash, into the general fund. It'd be going to free cash for fiscal year 2022. Just for explanation. Does anybody have any questions for or comments for Rich or for Jackie?
I do.
Peter.
Yeah, Rich, are we budgeting enough for the snow and ice? Because I think I was here all winter and shoveled my walk once.
Yeah. This is
My
my question also.
My question as well.
All right.
No, it's a good question. We did not have heavy snow events, but we did have a lot of freezing rain and ice events. And those require the trucks to get out on the road and do sanding and salting or whatever it is they have to do. So a large number of small events adds up, not as big as a smaller number of large events, which are more labor and time intensive. But yeah, that's kind of the answer. And so to your question, do we budget enough? The answer is yeah, sometimes we do. It's just the mix of events. It's hard to predict. I don't think last year we had a snow and ice deficit. In some years you don't. And so it's the common dilemma that almost every town has. You don't want to appropriate money when you've got other priorities that you'd rather appropriate it to. And then there's another provision of state law that once you appropriate it, they don't let you take it back. They require you to fund to the same extent as you did in the prior year. So there's really no incentive for appropriating additional money, as long as you know that you have a reserve fund or savings otherwise that you can cover deficits with. And if you don't, what some other towns do is they just roll it into the next year, and the state requires you to fund it through your tax rate by default.
Richard, just make one comment that if I were on the floor of the town meeting or on the field or where we'll have it, that would be something I would ask about, because there was just literally almost no snow. And to go over a budget with literally almost no shoveling and very little plowing, at least to the naked eye, just doesn't sound reasonable to me.
Well, if I may, I think I understand your point. But we have to worry about the roads 24 hours a day. It's not just your waking hours where you wake up and see snow on the ground. And, you know, in climates like ours, where the past few years, we haven't had heavy snow, but we have these sudden freeze periods. So we have like a cold spell and then it gets warm again and then it gets cold again. Those road conditions can be just as dangerous. And I'm very conservative, so I do allow them to sand as often as they feel they need to sand, and our police department calls them out. I don't. The police do when they think the road conditions warrant it. So I think $85,000 is what we, you know, that's what we carry year to year. Some years it's 3 times that we spend, and some years it's under that. And, you know, Silvio can talk about the specifics if you want of this year, but I think Rich is right. It was just the ice events. That's all it was.
Okay,
We can't just plow one road. We have to plow every single one, right?
Yeah,
Jerry,
Can't just sand one road. So.
yeah.
Jerry?
Any other
Yes.
questions or comments from anyone?
Yes, yes.
Go ahead.
I'm satisfied with Rich and Jackie's explanation, and I don't see any mileage in worrying about it, given the state's requirement that we continue at least any budget that we have. I don't see the point of raising it. We always have the funds available to transfer, and this is not a problem, so I'm good with what the town is doing.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
Well, we wouldn't have the funds, available to transfer if it came in 3 times the budget. So,
But if we budgeted even twice the budget, we'd be stuck with that every year.
I get it.
That's-
Right, yeah.
You're right, but you know,
But if, when we do come in 3 times, then what happens, Rich? It goes into the budget for the
So if you
next
came
year.
in 3 times over, there's a
Yeah.
couple approaches you could take. What I've done in other communities is I've added it as the Article 1 of the spring town meeting.
Right.
And you know, you've used free cash or some other available fund to cover it. Or if it's small enough, because we do generate, you know, fingers crossed, we do a pretty good job of you know, staying on top of our department heads and making sure we're only spending what we really need to spend on. So we typically are returning appropriations at the end of each year from salary and expense accounts. And so if we had a manageable amount, we would, instead of a reserve fund transfer, we would suggest a year-end transfer, what the general laws provide for. The finance committee and the select board both would vote on that, to take savings from one account to offset a shortfall in another.
And that's what we've done in prior years.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Further discussion on this? Do I hear them? Now, Rich, can, just thinking what you need, do you, one motion on the whole thing or each line? We don't know.
One motion's fine.
One motion for the entire problem. Do I hear a motion to approve the transfer from the reserve fund to the accounts, to these accounts?
I'll make a motion. I'll
I'll
make the
second
motion.
Russ's motion.
Okay, Russ and
Steve.
Steve. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, I'll go through the roll call. Roy,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
George,
Yes.
Mary,
Aye.
Russ,
Aye.
and Jerry is an aye. That would be a 7-0. All right. Jackie, do you have anything you want to add, bringing any topic in this open meeting?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we'll go, the next item is new business, and I'm going to just raise this. It's that we have a couple of appointments that expire on June 30th, and we want to look potentially to reappoint or whatever we would like to do. We have 2 positions, well, there's a position on the water capital projects, wastewater, and police, which I think is ended, but I'll ask Jackie that in a second, and the last being Rock Harbor. So Russ, are you willing to stay?
Yeah.
The reason I say this should be, we hope, short-lived on all these capital projects committees, because we hope that the charter gets approved and signed, so that we would then have one capital projects committee where we would have to go through, nominate 2 representatives from the finance committee. You're willing to stay?
I'm willing to stay on that.
Peter, I'd love to have you stay on waste management or whatever.
Yeah, I'd like to stay on that, Jerry, thanks.
Okay, that's great. Tom, with the saga with Rock Harbor, Tom has to stay on Rock Harbor. So I've talked to him, he's fine. And the police, I'm on the police one, but aren't we finished with that now, Jackie, or
Yes.
no? We're finished, so we don't have to nominate someone for that. So we have nominations. We have Peter for waste management, Russ for water, Tom for Rock Harbor. We have 2 other appointments. One, both of them to the search committee. George is one, and he does not want to be reappointed to the search committee. And the other that we have, who is we've appointed, is Amy Hackworth. She is the chair of the search committee. I have spoken with her, and she has been on it for 2 terms, so she's eligible for a 3rd, and she would like to continue there. So, and I told her that if you'd like, it would be my honor to nominate her to another term. I don't think we necessarily have to today think about and reach who we might want to appoint to the search committee. It does not have to be a member of the finance committee, but a finance committee representative. So, and with this being short-lived, I think we'll just leave that open for the July meeting, unless anyone has someone who they think wants to be on the search committee. All right. So do I have a motion to appoint Amy Hackworth to search, Peter to waste management, Russ to water capital projects, Tom to Rock Harbor capital project committee?
I make the motion that the individuals that you've named be appointed.
Do we have a second?
Second,
That was
Roy.
Roy,
Roy. Oh, okay. I have to learn to understand you here. Okay, let's go. Any further discussion? Okay, the vote. Roy,
Aye.
Steve,
Yes, aye.
Peter,
Yes,
George,
Yes.
Mary,
yes.
Russ,
Aye.
and Jerry's an aye for 7-0. Okay, I'm going to go
Jerry,
right now.
before you
Yes.
go to executive session,
Yeah,
this is the time where at every meeting, I ask Jackie, what is the status of the charter review legislation?
okay.
I have not checked lately, but I do know that if it's not done by the end of July, then we have to wait until the fall session. So we have a meeting scheduled with Sarah Peak for, I believe, next week to talk about Route 6 and our dilemmas there. So I will absolutely check on that with her and see where we are.
Nothing expires, though. We could go into the next session, right?
That's right. It's just,
Because if not, I'll go to Beacon Hill myself and sit in. I mean, this is really unforgivable, but thank you for trying.
And
And
there-
if any of us could be any help with Sarah, let me know. Let
Okay.
us know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Russ?
Yeah,
Russ?
I've just got my usual question for Jackie. Where does Emerald Green stand in terms of the marijuana opening? Have they opened?
they were supposed to open on school vacation week, but they didn't. And I'm not sure what's going on right now, but everything, they were interviewing new help. Everything looked like it was going towards opening. So I don't know what the delay is currently.
And Salty Farms is supposed to be opening soon too.
Yes, that's
Yeah, but
correct.
Salty Farmers hasn't gotten their state approval yet, so they're behind Emerald Grove.
All right. Okay. I think at this point, I have to adjourn. I don't know, do I need a motion and a vote to adjourn the public portion of this meeting?
You can make the motion.
I can make the motion that we adjourn the public portion, and do I hear a second?
Second,
Russ? Okay, we'll go through Roy,
Jerry?
Aye.
Steve, yeah,
Jerry?
yes,
I'm sorry, you should probably add to the motion that you're adjourning the public session, not going into executive session and not to
going into
return
executive session,
for the
right.
purposes.
If
the
we're gonna
purposes
have a
of-
whole discussion of this, I think you should just go into executive session, and then when that is through, we adjourn the meeting. There are not two separate meetings. There's not a public meeting and executive session meeting. There's a meeting, and the meeting goes into executive session. But if you want to
Okay.
take a vote and do it, that's okay. I mean, but
No, we can, the motion can be either. So you can either go into executive session and then return to your meeting, or you can, as Rich is suggesting, vote to go into executive session for the reasons stated by the chair and not return to open session.
All right,
Yeah,
I
that's a
like
good
that, I
motion.
want to return to open session. So, we have a motion to adjourn to, the public meeting, go to executive session, not to return to the public meeting. That was made by Russ, do I hear a second? No, that was made by me,
You
excuse
made
me,
it,
Russ second.
I seconded it.
Russ
Russ
second,
seconded.
Russ second.
Sorry, my mistake, we'll go to vote. Roy,
Aye.
Steve,
I.
Peter,
Aye.
George,
Yes.
Mary,
Aye.
Russ,
Aye.
and Jerry. Okay, we will.